over these past 2 seasons, Jalen Hurts has 147 fantasy points from rush attempts inside the 5-yard line. Josh Allen is in second at 90. Anthony Richardson is the only other quarterback over 40. Okay, so it's not just rush attempts for these quarterbacks. It's the fact that Hurts and Allen have this goal line rule that literally doesn't exist in any other offense around the league.
The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog. Today, we got a latest news update with all the injuries, news, and rankings adjustment that you got going on in the NFL, plus all of the quarterback rankings, projections, and tiers. We got Jake Ciely from theathletic.com on the line with his rankings. We have Ian Hartitz on the line from fantasylife.com. Fellas, it's been like a week or two. Let's talk some football.
Let's talk some football. No, Happy Gilmore.
No, yeah, we talked about Happy Gilmore. So, Ian, you have not seen Happy Gilmore?
Not yet. Huge plans for the weekend, so I'm traveling up to a premier vacation spot, Cleveland, Ohio. Looking forward to watching Happy Gilmore 2 at night.
Maybe you can like sneak your phone into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, get to the Cleve, and just sit there and watch some Happy Gilmore.
There we go, man. Like Joakim Noah said, vacation in Cleveland. Always want to go.
Let's get to the latest news. What do we got? What do you guys want to start with? Can anyone explain to me what's going on with Joe Mixon?
Yeah, he's probably not going to start week one. I'm not trying to play the I told you so, but everybody probably knows that. Yeah, but I will. It was 2 months ago, people were like, why do you have Joe Mixon down at RB 28, 30, and whatever? It's because the signing. It was not just the fact that they drafted Woody Marks, is that they immediately came out in the free agency and said, hey, let's sign Nick Chubb too, after drafting Marks, who is very much like Joe Mixon, which told us everything we need to know. They're not sure that we're going to see Joe Mixon for week one, and it could be weeks into the season at that point. We've already seen before with Barclays of the world and everything. What if it's a couple weeks before he's back into the mix fully 100% healthy? This is somebody who's been volume reliant for the past couple of years, and we didn't care because he got the volume. And even though he's not one of the most efficient runners, he was still a good touchdown option. It just was a lot of risk, and all the signs were pointing to he's not going to be ready for week one. So, no, I wouldn't say I definitively know. I'm not the internet doctors that we follow out there, and there's some really good ones. I'm not joking them. But I have no idea. I just think that everything's been telling us that do not count on Joe Mixon for this season.
Ian, I want my fantasy doctors not only giving me fantasy advice on injuries, but also giving me supplement providers that I can buy from them for high prices.
Look, I do appreciate some of those guys. I do think Dr. Jeff Mueller at JM Thrive PT does a pretty good job of, maybe avoiding some of those supplements, if you will. But look, with Joe Mixon, I think there was already plenty of cause for concern before we even got this latest update. He was in a walking booth. They added Chubb. They drafted Woody Marks. This offensive line, whether you want to take PFF's word for it or ETR's Brandon Thorne, dead last in some of the more reputable rankings that we have. And it's a scoring offense that we're not exactly expecting to light up scoreboards. And then we have Ian Rappaport calling the injury frustrating. Not the ideal verbiage I want to hear talking about a running back foot injury. So it does, kill me, guys, that we had Adam Schefter come out and say that Mixon should be okay fairly soon. And then 3 days later, we get the rap sheet report saying actually they're going to be evaluating this closer to the season. So I've moved him down RB 32. I think he's right in that last line of starting RBs, but I'm pretty much happy to let someone else draft him in fantasy drafts of most shapes and sizes.
Jake, when does Chubb start going before him?
It should be. It should be right now. I know that Chubb hasn't been the most efficient. It's not like he lit up the world last year, but he's the lead option. I think the real sneaky play here is to draft Woody Marks, and the fact that it wouldn't be a shock if that Chubb doesn't look any better than last year and Marks gets enough of an opportunity to make his case here. But Chubb should be going in front of Joe Mixon just because, again, Joe Mixon is a question for week one and beyond. It's what if it, again, just go back to what if it's not till week 5 and then he comes out and splits with Chubb and Marks. And then so when are you going to take somebody like that? You're going to put him on your bench. It goes back to the other shows we talked about. It's fine if you want to take him as an RB 4 or 5 and slap him on your bench, because then immediately after the draft is over, you can put him in the IR spot and you got a free draft pick out of it. But that's pretty much the cutoff of what I would do. I would want at least 3 running backs before I was taking Mixon.
Okay, you're never going to feel comfortable taking Mixon in this sense. But Ian, if it was to you and you were in the blank round, are you taking Joe Mixon?
8, 9 off the top of my head. Maybe that's a little bit early too. Again, it's going to depend to Jake's point who you already have on the squad. But I still want to go Chubb ahead of him just yet. Maybe we shouldn't be completely overreacting. It still is possible Mixon's going to be there by week 1. Again, the concerns that we have are reason enough just to kind of avoid the backfield as it is. But we have Zach Charbonnet going inside the top 36. He's seemingly going to be Kenneth Walker's clear-cut backup RB1 with Joe Mixon. At least he should be the starter once he gets out there. So again, don't hate the player, hate the ADP. If it goes low enough in the RB4 territory, like Jake's saying, at that point, I'll buy.
I punched in I'm curious to see how this turned out for you, Jake. I still have Mixon at number 35 in my projections and Chubb at number 36, assuming that Mixon misses only 2 games and then ends up into a split, because I do think that with all things being equal, maybe I don't have a ton of marks in here, but maybe with a bad offensive line, a team that's not expected to be as good might get down early, although the defense is still pretty good. Maybe they pass a little bit more. I have basically nullified Nick Chubb in the passing game because that's what happened in Cleveland. But maybe he can catch. Maybe that's a possibility.
I would actually lean more towards you. Yeah. So the updated projections, I have him that being Mixon in the 30s, and I still have Chubb behind him as in the projections. I think it really comes down to where I would still take Chubb. You're also going to know it. Full point PPR, you can make an argument and still take Mixon for the upside if he is the lead option, similar to what Ian just said. Mostly because even if it's Chubb, let's just say for now, let's say Mixon's out for the first 4 games. I actually agree with what you have, and that's why I have the projections. I have for 10 receptions. I just think that that's going to be Woody Marks' game, or maybe even somebody else, shockingly, in this backfield. I just don't think that's going to be part of Nick Chubb at this point. So that's the concern, is that even if it is his job, and if his job is partly split when Mixon comes back, you're losing the passing game. So I can see the argument to say, if you're going to draft Chubb, it's probably only going to be for the first half of the season. If you're drafting Joe Mixon, you're counting more in the second half of the season. Maybe that's the way you kind of play it. If you're doing a wide receiver situation, similarly, and you draft somebody like Ayuk and you're counting on him for the second half of the season, and then you flip it and you have somebody that maybe you only wanted for the first half to kind of play that balance that you talk about a lot.
It's probably just honestly, it's probably just an avoid for me. I'm looking at my projections. I use
that's fair.
4for4.com/Mayo to get you 25% off all of the football packages over there right now. I like the new betting tool. It rules. It's winning me on WNBA, Jake. But I mean, for NFL, I assume it's better for NFL.
I would hope and assume, but yeah, go get the WNBA money. I saw what somebody got 800 text messages to what's her face and got put in jail from prison for 2 years.
Wait, what? What?
You didn't hear that?
What did you do? What did you do, Jake?
No, I didn't do anything.
What are you doing, Jake?
There was 800 messages, and the dude got put in jail for stalking her. What's her face? Caitlin Clark.
What was it, over a parlay?
No, it might have been. You never know.
Yeah, I'd go check that out. But I'm looking at it right now. Mixon's ADP is really difficult to figure out at the moment because so much of it's been baked in for what's been going on over the preseason. This is for half-point PPR. We're not talking best ball on the show. We're talking standard redraft league.
Sure.
But
well, let me ask you.
What's that?
You always ask us the questions. Let me ask you a question. So I have him right in line with the ETN Bigsby situation. So would you take either one of those, or would you still take Joe Mixon?
I'd probably take ETN. But honestly, if I'm at a draft, this is my strategy versus what I think a lot of more sensible and better people do at fantasy football. When I make my rankings, probably just going to put Mixon, unless we get word that he's fine, he's just going to be at number 70 in my rankings. It would be I would want to draft him, and just cross him off the list. I just take someone else.
That's fair. Ian? Jaguars?
I feel the same way about this backfield, honestly. Jaguars, at least we have the hope that Liam Cohen, Trevor Lawrence, Hunter, they're going to make this high-scoring offensive environment. Obviously, the scheme that we saw Bucky Irving and those guys thrive in, maybe get more out of these backs. I honestly think this is pretty close to the Browns situation. Quinshon Judkins, Jerome Ford, Dylan Sampson, Pierre Strong Jr. We're all pretty much expecting a committee to still exist in a bad offense with an offensive line we don't love. Why is that a situation we should be dying to get to, okay? So at least with the Browns originally, we had a talent and Quinshon Judkins we could really believe in. But heck, we didn't even have that with Mixon in the first place, talking about his inefficiency over the years and things like that. So again, most likely answer to which running back you want to draft out of Cleveland and obviously Houston alike might just be no.
I would be willing to gamble on Chubb just because we've seen this happen a bunch of times. Guys coming off big injury. And we have it in the back of our mind that everyone is going to be basically Adrian Peterson the year that he came back. It's like, not only is he back, somehow he's better coming off of this major injury. Whereas most running backs actually do take 2 years to get a little bit better. And if you put Nick Chubb from 2 years ago versus Joe Mixon from 2 years ago, I feel like we would all say Nick Chubb is the real life better running back, that if he can get back to like 90% of what he used to be, he still could be really good.
But Pat, I mean, Chubb just broke his foot in December. So now do we need to add an extra year to that? And I don't know, man. Like, I think there are some examples, but I also find it hard to believe that Chubb and all these other running backs, Javonte Williams, are the extra 450 touches he's taken over the past 2 years, just waiting for the right one to knock his knee back into how it was before. Again, I have heard doctors talk about Achilles specifically being more of a 2-year injury, but some of this knee stuff, man, I just think any way you shake it, it's bad news.
It is, but Jake, like, Chubb was good. Javonte Williams was never good.
No, Javonte Williams immediately was good before his first injury.
He was like, Nick Chubb was like an all-pro running back.
Oh, you're not wrong about that, but
fun fantasy guy for 3 weeks.
Chubb was great. Javonte was good.
Yes, and then Javonte Williams was also had the passing upside, which Chubb we're just talking about. That doesn't at this point, especially even before he had some, but not to like it's basically gone. And then we are talking about Nick Chubb at this point of his career. Like this isn't Nick Chubb. I'd be more with what you're saying. If this was 4 years ago, first injury, something like that, I'm going to come back to something that Ian said, where I think the answer, if we're including Cleveland in this, the answer for me is actually Jerome Ford. I think Jerome Ford, with double-digit carries every single time over the past 2 years, the guy's averaging double-digit points per game. Like, nobody wants Jerome Ford. I'll take him.
I like Jerome Ford the best of the Cleveland backfield. I'm in on that. I think that if we're talking about the receiving core in Cleveland, Ian, like Lucky Pierre probably isn't going to be doing too much. Do we have a definitive statement? Have I missed anything on Judkins yet? Whether or not he's like out for the year, whether Cleveland might just cut him and keep him out? Like, what's happening?
The latest update was from Jimmy Haslam, who says he has not communicated with Quinshon Judkins in the last month. He's cautiously optimistic he will play for the Browns. That's the point we're at right now. And that's the thing I think everyone's missing. It's not just the suspension here. And it does sound like a 6-game suspension is on the table. That's not the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is some ugly stuff comes out in this trial. Maybe he's even found guilty. Maybe he's innocent, but we just find a video or God knows what happens. He's not signed. Usually NFL teams can just say, hey, we are waiting for the NFL to do something. And the NFL says, hey, we're waiting on the legal system to do something. Legal system takes years to get it done. And then, we go through this. He is not signed on a team. Are the Browns really in a position to take on another PR nightmare in a situation like this? I don't really think so.
I'll give you the comparison. If this would have come out before the draft like Isaiah Bond, he'd be sitting where Isaiah Bond is and not on a team right now because Isaiah Bond just had his countersuit thrown out. And that's still in litigation of his whole situation. They would be in the same boat right now. Neither one of them would be on a team right now. And it will actually technically, as Ian just said, Judkins is not on a team. And that if this was before the draft, he wouldn't have been drafted.
Pat, if you had to look at like the top 200 players in ADP, who do you think is least likely to play, or most likely, I should say, to not play a single snap this year? It might be Judkins.
Yeah. I mean, it could be Joe Mixon for all we know. Maybe he's like had his foot cut off or something.
He's up there. Najee's up there. Keenan Allen's up there. My point is, again, I feel like people are looking at the Judkins situation saying, okay, he's going to face a suspension. The real worst case scenario is he's not on a football team this year.
Yeah.
Remember what I told you about that Najee news and then it turned out to be true?
I mean, half true. You were kind of like making like the eye was falling out of his face. I think he was blind.
Well, has he practiced yet?
No, but they said that he can see out of the eye. You had a dude wearing an eye patch on the football field.
Out of the eye yet.
There's some UFC fighters that fight with one eye. Shout out Michael Bisping, Magomed, that weird looking pirate dude. He does it too. What if Najee's vision improves? What if because he only has one eye now, we actually see like
what if he's like the dude from Happy Gilmore? I see sideways now. No. The other one. Pat knows who I'm talking about.
No, Chubb,
the thuggy guy that like went after him. What the hell? You know what I'm talking about. I can't think of his name.
I got you. I'm not here on names for Happy Gilmore, too. So, of the Cleveland backfield, Ford, Ian, for you, or is it Dylon Sampson? Because he spits hot fire.
I got Ford. I think, you look at him last year, average north of 5 yards per carry. He's at the top of the rushing yards over expected list, and he can actually catch the football. We always get infatuated with the next best rookie coming in and all that stuff, but Ford's been in this system, and I do think there's a very real chance he continues to lead the way to an extent. But that's the other thing with this backfield. Over the years, even when Nick Chubb was fantastic, it's not like he was going out there getting 30 touches a game. They kept Kareem Hunt involved. And then when Chubb's been hurt in recent years, we've also had Pierre Strong Jr. involved and other guys that are, again, Deontay Foreman was getting carries in this offense last year. So I think Sampson's going to get some touches, but I think Sampson's at least another injury away. And again, in this scenario where Judkins is completely out of the picture, the Browns just used a top 40 draft pick on him. Would they not maybe look to invest in another running back to bring into the fold? Because, again, that's a really big loss from what you were expecting to have to start the year.
KOC Jake has talked about Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason essentially splitting touches in the Vikings backfield. And we spoke at length about Jordan Mason on the Sleeper Show. Hit the description for the link to that show, or just sub to Mayo Media Network. Smash the like while you're here as well. That's very helpful stuff that you can do. If you want to help out the show, help out me, but especially Ian, but more especially Jake, you hit the sub button on Mayo Media Network and smash the like to the channel. But does that put them very close to you in the rankings, or are you still thinking, hey, Aaron Jones likely is still going to be the one who is first on the field, the one with the valuable touches, at least the more valuable touches starting in week 1, and that's his job to retain that way, that he'll be until he proves otherwise, or Mason just proves that he's better, that Aaron Jones is still the way that you want to go?
I would still go Aaron Jones. I do think there's a threat that Jordan Mason takes over. And for everybody that saw the news as we're doing this right now today, Jordan Mason running with the ones. Let's remember, it's more telling when you don't run with the ones than running. You get evaluated with the ones. It's more important if you're not with the ones. So I don't want everybody to overreact to the Jordan Mason news today. But I think this is kind of similar to the Steelers, but reverse it, is that Aaron Jones is the Jaylen Warren, the pass-catching option. I actually think Jordan Mason could immediately steal the Najee Harris short yardage goal line, because we saw how much this Vikings struggled to put anything into the end zone on the ground last year, and Aaron Jones is part of the problem. Aaron Jones back to the Packers those years, a lot of those runs when he had double-digit touchdowns, it wasn't like he was plugging them in from the 1 and the 2 yard line. So I think this could be a Steelers kind of split, but reverse the roles, and then there still is the threat that Mason does take over some point and push this to a 60-40, whereas if you want to chase the touchdowns, you go with Jordan Mason, but I still think the pass-catching option, for whether or not Jordan Mason takes over, and he can do it, I just think that Aaron Jones is still going to be involved. I don't think we'll ever see a 70-30 split either way.
Yeah, I think when you, again, try to dig beneath the surface a little bit, both these guys got new contracts from the Vikings. Guess what? Jordan Mason's was 2 years for a little over $10 million. Aaron Jones got 2 years for $20 million. So I do still think that Aaron is going to be the lead running back here. And to Jake's point, look, I'm going to take the receiving upside and just getting all these targets more so than the potential for a few extra goal line touches. I do think Jordan Mason will be the short yardage guy. But again, sometimes this is a situation where, okay, how often do we actually see the offense sub out that running back when they're inside the 5 yard line? Is it going to be more of a short yardage situation after a timeout or in a select 4th and 1 situation? I'm not going to say that out of 20 carries inside the 5 yard line now, all 20 are going to Jordan Mason. Also, as much as Jordan Mason is the bigger body, and I understand we do have a history of Jones not exactly being a bulldozer at the goal line, it is funny to me that Jordan Mason went 1 for 7 on scoring touchdowns inside the 5 yard line last year, and now all of a sudden he's being viewed as this, goal line bulldozer. So again, I do think that I have them ranked right next to each other. I think both guys have huge handcuff upside, not handcuff upside necessarily, but if the other guy goes down, we're going to be building him up the ranks. So from that perspective, I'm intrigued, but I would take Aaron Jones straight up over him.
Jake, where are you seeing Caleb Johnson go in drafts right now? Because my projections still have Caleb Johnson, Jaylen Warren pretty similar. And I've just seen a lot of Caleb Johnson hype. It's like, oh, Judkins might not play. Let's move on to another rookie and let's overinflate his value. When he was going at the beginning of the 5th round, that sounded pretty good. But how far have you seen him sneak up?
I haven't seen him go much further. I think he's been a back-end RB2, and that's where I've had him, and I think that's where he should go, because I go back to, I don't remember if we talked about this on the RB show, but I go to what the Steelers have told us. The Steelers have told us time and time and time again, they don't want Jaylen Warren as the bell cow lead. They just don't. They want Jaylen Warren who Jaylen Warren is. And that's fine. I mean, you and I go far enough back that we sat on this show and talked about how everybody clamored for Lamar Miller. Get more touches for Lamar Miller. Look how good he is. And it's like, hey, maybe the NFL teams knows something because as soon as Lamar Miller got more touches, he put up the same damn numbers on more touches. He was less efficient. So the Steelers went out, brought in Caleb Johnson, who I wasn't even the biggest fan of, but he profiles a lot like Najee Harris, and he's going to take the Najee Harris role. And that's the issue here, is that maybe the split isn't as pronounced, but even if it's 55-45, it's just going to hurt Jaylen Warren and keep Warren in that RB3 range, which is fine because on a lot of teams, you can keep him in as your RB3 and half a full point PPR, and you can use Caleb Johnson as your 2. Similar to the Viking situation with Ian just said, the real upside is if either one of them got hurt, you draft either one and the other one gets hurt, you're getting a top 20, potentially top 15 running back. So they're valuable where they're going with both having upside where they're going. So I have no problem taking either running back on the Steelers.
In my mind, Ian, that's just if what you said is true, what Jake said is true, and what you're saying is true as well, that if there's a split, if the other guy goes down, the other one's going to have incredible value. Just give me the cheaper guy.
Yeah, at the same time, do we really trust Arthur Smith to ever turn any backfield over to a single back? I mean, our one true king, Cordero Patterson, is unfortunately not in the fold anymore, but we still got Kenneth Gainwell, Trey Sermon. No, not big names, but I really wouldn't put it past Arthur Smith to continue keeping multiple guys involved, even if we do see an injury unfold. So I will say that we only have to go back 2 years ago, and honestly, the pace last year for Warren in his healthy games was pretty similar. To see Jalen getting 149 carries and 74 targets out there, look, I see a situation where, yes, Caleb Johnson should be the guy getting a little bit more run inside the 5-yard line and on early downs, but Jaylen Warren is the explosive pass catching option. And are we exactly expecting, Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers offense to be knocking on the, end zone door time and time again? Not really. I see an old 40-something-year-old quarterback 2 years removed from an Achilles likely to check the ball down to Jaylen Warren all freaking day long. So I'm still leaning towards Warren in full PPR. I've gotten some exposure to Caleb Johnson. I know he's got, that home run ability and everything like that, but hey, everything we just outlined from Minnesota, I think, is true to an extent for Pittsburgh as well. Give me the more explosive pass catching option in these sorts of situations.
Jake, and that's where I agree with you, Pat, is that I would take the cheaper option. I would still take Jaylen Warren.
Like if you're playing for max upside, obviously Caleb Johnson is probably the better option. If Warren ends up going down, then it's all his, with maybe Kenneth Gainwell coming into pass block and catch passes. Who knows? But if all things are being equal, if I don't think that Caleb Johnson's all that much better and I need one of them to get to the top, I just want to expend as little draft capital as possible on that pick. And I like Jaylen Warren. Everyone knows I like Jaylen Warren, so I just want to see him do well. He's my guy. But you mentioned Lamar Miller a little bit earlier. Is Tony Pollard just new Lamar Miller?
I've got a lot of pushback and a lot of why do you hate Tony Pollard this year? Because I have him as the mid to late 20s. And it's basically because we just saw Tony Pollard get the vast majority of the touches last year until the end of the season where we saw a little bit more Spears. But even so, the vast majority is still checked in only as a fringe RB2 in points per game. I'm with you. It's just Tony Pollard is Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard puts up his numbers on 280 touches, puts up the same numbers on 220. I kind of agree with you. It's just that's who Tony Pollard is, and that's okay. He can be a fine RB2. He's just not more than that, and I will stand by that. I will go down, and that will be one we can do in the postseason. If Tony Pollard finishes as an RB1 somehow, I'll start chewing on a hat on your show or something. I don't know.
Chewing a hat.
Yeah, well, it's like, everybody's like, I'll eat a hat. Do you know how hard that would be? I could at least chew on it or something.
You probably have to soften or boil the hat to soften it up a bit, like broccoli.
Deep fry it. I don't know. But look, that's kind of a similar takeaway. I was doing my Titans team preview like a month ago, and I was like, look, Tajay Spears had one injury after another. Tony Pollard had games where he legit had a snap rate north of 90%. And yeah, he finished RB22 in PPR points per game. Like, I feel like if you had outlined that throughout the season, like, hey, Pollard, like before the season last year, hey, Pollard's going to be relatively healthy, was out there for, I think, 16 games. The only one he missed was because of an illness. His yards after contact numbers got back to looking like prime Tony Pollard before that 2023 season that we kind of wrote off because of the tightrope surgery. And again, he just still couldn't make all that much happen with it. So Titans have made some steps to improve this offensive line. Maybe it'll be better, but that's only because, again, the baseline has been one of the worst units in the league, as we saw down the stretch with Derrick Henry. So bad offense, probably a mediocre offensive line. Aging running back with plenty of competition in the form of Tajay Spears. Not a situation I'm going out of my way for.
Darnell Mooney has a shoulder problem. Jake could be out. I mean, going into week 1, we don't know at this point. Do you worry about, like, is there anyone behind Mooney on the Atlanta receiving depth chart that would interest you at all? Because there are some names that I love, like crappy players that I have loved over the years, who are like the fifth. You got Kenny David Sills to pay the bills. You got DJ Chark, Daryl Hodge, Jamal Iru Agnew is on this team. Everyone's here. None of these guys are any good. Is it just maybe take a shot on Ray McLeod? That's it?
I was waiting for you to say Ray McLeod. No, I think this is opening the door for us. Hey, again, he's going double-digit rounds. It's at the end of drafts. I understand he's burned us for 2 years straight, but at a free essential tight end cost, the answer is Kyle Pitts. And if it doesn't happen in the first 2 weeks while Darnell Mooney's not out there, then you just dump him and move on because it's the tight end position.
For what it's worth, I have been trying to see what doctors are saying about the Mooney injury. It sounds like he should be ready to go by week 1 without any lingering effects. So I'm tentatively keeping the ranks the same. Pat, Pro Bowler Daryl Hodge to you, okay? That man blocked 2 punts in the same game last year. Shout out Daryl Hodge, man.
I think this opens the door for Nick Nash to make the team. This is the guy who just led football, but a small school that like Nick Nash can all of a sudden be something. But if you want a real non-name for you, Pat, I don't think a lot of people don't even know who Nick Nash is.
Is he Steve Nash's son?
Yes. Yeah.
Or is he Kevin Nash's son?
Oh, even better. He's going to roll out there the week 1 with the leg and the wheelchair and poop. Get on there.
Nash is almost 70, so I doubt his
is he really?
Like 40. His son would be like my age.
Good grief. I didn't
Probably
realize
don't want to draft
old.
that guy.
No. Chark's on this team too right now, isn't he?
What's that?
He just got signed.
Isn't Chark on? Yeah, Chark just got signed on this team too.
Yeah, everyone's here. I thought Chark would. I guess Quentin Johnston ended up doing what DJ Chark potentially could have done for the Chargers last year, but I feel like I guess I would have to see what his latest 40 time is. I still feel like no one burns like DJ Chark does. He just gets behind defenses.
He finally joined a team without a cat mascot. Shut up.
Oh, good for him. What do you guys make of Atlanta this year anyway? I feel like we're now in the 4th consecutive year of, okay, here's the thing. I know they've burned me last year, but Atlanta's going to be really good this year. And just like, are they going to be really good?
Atlanta's just Tony Pollard. They are what they are.
I think they could be like the NFC version of the Bengals. Them are the Cowboys, like a defense that can't really get stops and an offense that's willing to just keep on throwing the ball. We got a workhorse in Bijan at least.
Bengals?
So what we saw in those last 2 weeks, those Commanders, Panthers, shootouts against the Falcons. Again, I'm not saying it's necessarily going to be pretty, but Penix is willing to push the ball downfield. He could be like a, Gen Z, Gen Y, whatever on at this point version of James.
I mean, if that's the case and Mooney's healthy, then we should be taking a hell of a lot of Mooney. I'm not coming for you, Ian. I'm just saying if that were to be the truth, then we should be investing in Mooney and maybe even Ray and Nick Nash and somebody else.
Maybe we should.
Mooney is probably still the right answer here. I'm guessing he starts going undrafted in most leagues.
If he was ready for week 1, would you take your boy Shaheed or would you take Mooney, Pat?
I'd probably take Mooney. I like Shaheed a lot. Like I would take Shaheed off maybe almost before Olave at this point because Mr. Concussion just can't stay on the field. And hey, if you want to see practice reports to get yourself fired up, this is what you need to start doing, Jay, because maybe you're going to steal the bit from someone else that I've seen that I follow. But every time like there's an injury or there's like a highlight from practice, they just quote tweet it to you like, see, I told you. It's like, that's great, man.
Isn't Ian the one who put Ian? Didn't you just put that out yesterday with like the I told you this time last year or something like that and shut the up? Wasn't that you?
Oh my God, I get so tired of those. Yeah, this time last year I told you about Jamar Chase and all this nonsense. Come on, just that whole thing. It's just the fact that people are doing that to like try to take advantage of the algorithms. It's the same thing with threads. If you have like an actual thing where you need multiple pictures or like a thread actually works, by all means do it. But it's gaming the system when we're just talking about fantasy freaking football in the first place.
You don't want your $14 a month from Twitter, Ian?
I turned off the monetization. I don't want to be involved with that.
Why not? It pays for my golf.
Yeah.
The $14 pays for your golf. I need to move where
but no, Ian's got a lot more followers than we do.
That's
Ian,
true. Yeah, thanks
Yeah.
for sharing the love with us. How about we share the love with your quarterback rankings? So that's what we're here to talk about today. And I want to get into some strategy before we do anything. You can find all of Jake's rankings up at theathletic.com, fantasylife.com for all of Ian's rankings. Ian, we're going to start with you. When should you be taking your first quarterback if you want one of the elite guys? Like, are you willing to take a mid-third round Lamar Jackson or a third round Josh Allen? I don't even know how high they're going. In home leagues, they tend to go higher because you always have two people who don't know anyone. So they're like, hey, Josh Allen, he's good. I'll make him my second round pick. Or are you someone who's like, hey, I'll wait till like round 15 and take X?
Earliest I could see myself doing is at the very end of round 2 if we just had the perfect, number of running backs and wide receivers kind of break off, and I don't see really a big difference, and I'm about to pick and get out the turn anyway, okay? So again, we've talked about this in the running back and wide receiver episodes. Check those out if you guys haven't already. Yeah. Of course, shout out on the Pat Mayo Show. But yeah, again, I think after like Josh Jacobs and Chase Brown, you could argue those 10 or 11 running backs, there's a tier break, just like a wide receiver. After your A.J. Brown, Lab McConkey, there's a tier break where, yeah, we can talk about Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr. They all have one problem, and accordingly, I'm just not willing to go out on a limb for those guys. So very end of round 2 for someone like Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, I can get down with. I will say, though, and Jay, curious on your thoughts here, I think the best value of any of those guys is going to be Jalen Hurts because, my God, guys, just – we appreciate dual threat quarterbacks, but I don't think we appreciate the tush-push nature and what these guys have going for them enough. Over these past 2 seasons, Jalen Hurts has 147 fantasy points from rush attempts inside the 5-yard line. Josh Allen is in second at 90. Anthony Richardson is the only other quarterback over 40, okay? So it's not just rush attempts for these quarterbacks. It's the fact that Hurts and Allen have this goal line rule that literally doesn't exist in any other offense around the league.
Is there a strategy for you, Jake? Because just to look at ADP of where guys are going in 12-team leagues right now, the 2-3 turn, that's where Lamar and Josh Allen are going. The 3-4 turn is basically where Hurts and Jaden Daniels are going. Middle of round 4 is Joe Burrow. Then there's a drop-off to Mahomes, Baker, Nix, Kyler Murray, and then down the list. But there's the big 4, then Joe Burrow, then everyone else is kind of like what it feels like.
And that's how I have them. And actually, overall, I actually tail that end of the 3rd, early 4th. I go Lamar, Jaden, Allen, Hurts with the last 2 picks of the 3rd, the first 2 picks of the 4th, because what Ian just said is the biggest reason. It's like, I'll just take Hurts, who's kind of going right around there, as the same as the other 3. I think they're all neck and neck and neck and neck. Did I do that 4 times? Anyway, point being is that's why I'd say the end of the 3rd. If you want to say mid-3rd, because if you're drafting mid-3rd and you really want an elite quarterback, I'll say okay, because there's a good chance all 4 of them go before you get to the middle of the 4th, where I would probably be okay taking Burrow in the mid to the end of the 4th. But if you want one of the elites and you're drafting with the 6th, 5th pick, I'd be like, fine, okay, I get it, depending on how your roster started. But I'm most comfortable end of the 3rd, early 4th, as the bigger point being what Ian said, is I think the gap from Hurts to the other 3 should be as slim as you can get, where the gap on the ADP, as you just referenced, Pat, is much wider, and I don't think that's correct.
Ian, for years, I've always told people, whether it be a 10-team, 12-team, 14-team league, although I doubt very many like bad fantasy players and new fantasy players are playing 14-team leagues, but if you are not good at fantasy football, or you're far less experienced than most of your friends, your league mates, whatever, go get Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. It's going to save you most of the weeks from the minutia of, oh, now I need to stream this quarterback. Just have a guy who puts up points. If you're an advanced player, you probably don't need to do that because you can make your team better elsewhere. But if you're not going to be making savvy waiver moves, great trades, whatever it might be, late round picks that pan out, just go get an established high-end quarterback and you'll be shocked at how good your team is.
I would say, sure, go ahead. Use kind of that Ricky Bobby first or last mindset, all right? If you are going to take a quarterback early, take one of the elite ones. Take your Josh Allen, your Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, or Jalen Hurts. If I'm not getting one of those guys, I'd include Joe Burrow in that in leagues where we're getting 5 or 6 points for a passing touchdown and we get that little bump. But otherwise, guys, I am more than fine taking the Jordan Loves, the Justin Herberts of the world, because we start seeing pretty similar archetypes and projections. I would even, just guessing with Jake Ciely's going on here between your QB7 and honestly, even your QB 17, 18. So again, if I'm going to be late to the party, I'm going to be really freaking late back there. And then you can take 2 shots anyway. So I will say when you are taking these early quarterbacks, you don't need a second one. That said, man, when you start looking at the back end of things, Anthony Richardson going the final round of drafts, even though when he is starting, he could legit be in our top 12, Geno Smiths of the world, Tua Tagovailoa, Jordan Loves. There's a lot of quarterbacks going late where we actually have seen them present QB1 upside before. So I don't mind getting, 2 shots in the chamber there if we are going to be waiting late.
That's what I would be doing too. I'd be trying to roll the dice, Jake, on upside late if I didn't get, honestly, one of these 5 guys. So let's get to your rankings in the ADP. They're up on the screen right now. So you have Lamar going as the first quarterback. Ian has him ranked at number 2, though. He has Josh Allen ranked at number 1, who's going second. Jake has Josh Allen at number 3 and Jaden Daniels at number 2, who's going third. Then Jalen Hurts, then Joe Burrow. So those are the top 5 for both of you. So we can, battle it out of why you like one over the other. But when I take a look at the next, as Ian pointed out, 15 quarterbacks, Jake, they all feel like they're all on the same tier to me. So I would just wait at this point.
I'm with you mostly. So I have a tier of 6 and then a really big tier of 10 after that. And it's a very slim margin between that tier 3 and tier 4, very similar to the Joe Burrow split. I have him in a tier of his own outside of that top 4. That's the gap. So if you want to say 6 through 20 is the same for you, I go back to what you said, the Ricky Bobby joke, first or last, and that's how I draft. If you want to take one of the early quarterbacks, yes. If not, I'm waiting till the end game. And I mean the end game. I will wait till the 13th, 14th round and double down, as Ian said. But if I'm going to double down, I think the mistake a lot of people will make, they'll say like, hey, I'll take Drake May, but if he doesn't pan out, I'll make sure and draft Matthew Stafford. They take do not take a safe second option. Every single year, I forgot how far back I looked to say it grammatically correct. But every single year, 2 quarterbacks outside of the top 16 in ADP finish inside the top 10. Every single year. I mean, like, you can go back really far. Take 2 shots on guys who can finish top 10, potentially even top 5. If whether or not you agree on McCarthy, you can take a shot on him. CJ Stroud bouncing back. Drake May, if that's your guy. But take shots on these guys who have top 10, top 5 upside. Don't draft somebody to be your QB 16 on the year. And cool, I got Derek Carr and Matthew Stafford. No, that's a waste of a quarterback pick.
Yeah, this year, the names that stick out. You said Stafford. Say Herbert's probably in that mix, Ian, of guys that are going to be good, but not really do anything for your fantasy.
I know Ian said Tua, but I would include Tua in that. Tua's peak is like 18 points per game. He doesn't ever get inside the top 10.
Yeah, it's fair. Honestly, Herbert's the one where we did see him set career highs in rushing last year, even despite having, the foot and ankle problems during the first couple of weeks. So Greg Roman and company do like to use the, rushing quarterback. And hey, I am one of these, losers, non-ball knowers out there that actually does think, Herbert is a top 5 or 6 real life quarterback in the NFL. So I hear the point with Tua. I actually have a tier break after, CJ Stroud. And honestly, Goff's kind of in that as well. I'm curious to see where Jake has him. If you do want that rushing upside, I just think use your last round pick on someone like Anthony Richardson. And also, if you guys are in one of these, 24 round leagues or something like that, I know it gets gross out there in a hurry. You've already gone past your handcuff running backs. You got the Darius Slaytons of the world, at the top of your queue. Jalen Milroe, guys, he's someone where, again, God forbid something happens to Sam Darnold. Maybe he's just not playing well. Jalen Milroe is that guy where, look, he's not going to be 2019 Lamar Jackson, but he could do a pretty good 2018 impression where we're just seeing him run the ball 15, 20 times a game, and those fantasy points add up in a hurry.
So we cared about Packers Malik Willis, and Jalen Milroe can only be at least that.
Oh, Milroe place? Let's draft that guy because Sam Darnold reeks. Remember when his line stopped blocking for him? Watch out for that in Seattle.
Which is a fair point, but again, why are you drafting Sam Darnold?
I'm not.
Best case scenario, 4,400 yards and 30 touchdowns. Do we really think that's going to happen?
No.
Okay, so there you go.
Yeah, just don't draft Sam Darnold, then you'll be good. Draft Kenneth Walker, your main man, instead. Jake, I know I tagged you in it, but Ian, did you see that highlight of Darius Slayton's catch from Russell Wilson? Oh!
BEA beautiful double take.
Cup videos.
He changed the number. 18 now. That's an alpha number. Let's go.
Number 6. So after this top tier, this is where you guys, your rankings just start to go all over the place versus each other. But in ADP, it's Mahomes, Baker, Nix, Kyler Murray, and Purdy. So Jake, you have Mahomes at 9, Baker at 6, Nix at 8, Kyler at 11, Purdy at 14. And then Ian, you have Mahomes at 6, Baker at 10, Nix at 7, Kyler Murray at 8, and then Brock Purdy at 11. I actually kind of like Brock Purdy. I'd like to see how healthy his options are going to be going forward as we go down that list a little bit more. But after that, who knows? Who do we even have here?
You know who you're missing.
Yeah, we're missing someone at number 1. Can't even.
You're missing my number 7.
Who's your number 7? Fields?
Justin Fields.
Yeah, I got 9.
There we go. So Caleb Williams, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Goff, Prescott, Herbert, May, Stroud, McCarthy. So it's just, and Lawrence. Where is stupid Justin Fields?
Justin Fields? Did he get a cut off?
They had to cut off his toe, and that was the end of him. Yeah, I don't even see Fields on this list. So there we go. You guys both like Fields. I don't. I just think he sucks. So that's me. I'd rather.
Here's the good news.
I would rather take Caleb Williams instead.
No, the good news is
still good in fantasy.
I don't need him to not suck as a thrower. I just need him to run for 1,000 yards, which he did the last time he played 15 games, let alone a full season. And I don't even need 1,000. He runs for 800. And I say this all the time, Pat. I love pulling it up because I love hating on the guy. He runs for 700 yards and 7 touchdowns. He can be Daniel Jones, who threw 15 touchdowns in 16 games. And guess what? A top 10 quarterback, because you can suck as a passer. And in fantasy, you just run for a lot. Boom. Check mark. Top 10.
Why wouldn't you just take whoever starts for the Colts then? Because they're going to do the same thing.
So I agree with Ian, and I said boom when he said wait on Anthony Richardson and just take him as a flyer at the end. I actually have Anthony Richardson higher than most, but still low outside of the top 20, because I think people miss that on a game-to-game basis, he was very volatile, very like a Deshaun Jackson, 20 points, 7, 23, 10. Like, so you understand that even if Anthony Richardson hits and at the end of the year he's QB7, you're going to have to deal with that ups and downs. And honestly, you can make the argument for Fields too. I brought it up to you a few shows ago that Justin Fields, 2 games of over 20 points last year, a total of 1 passing touchdown because it was all on the ground. It's a lot of volatility, which you have to have a roster that you can deal with it. Again, to your point earlier, if you're inexperienced and don't have a roster built around it, or you're worried about not making the waiver pickups and stuff like that, it might not be the best quarterback for you.
With
How
Fields,
high
it's just
in-
one of these things. Yeah, real quick. We just don't see this guy bust. All right. This type of quarterback. There's been 31 guys since 2014 have at least 100 carries. 28 finish as a top 12 per game. I'm not even doing the dickhead moves thing where I'm using like the total points per game basis. The only guys that didn't do it were 2014 Colin Kaepernick. We had 2020 Cam Newton, who threw like 9 touchdowns and still actually finished QB 17. And 2018 Lamar Jackson, which is honestly kind of skewed because that's being, those games where he was just coming in for Flacco for a couple plays. He actually was a QB1 down the stretch when he was starting. So again, I'm not saying Justin Fields is going to be this top 5 quarterback necessarily, but he's always sucked at throwing and he's always been a QB1 anyway. I don't expect that to change.
So let me see here. Where do I have him projected? So my projections with 900 yards rushing have him projected at 10th. I think I'd still rather go with the upside of Caleb Williams here, of that maybe he's actually number 1 overall good.
I still wouldn't, because, again, 20 points per game that one season. He didn't even throw 20 touchdowns that year. He didn't even throw, 23 or 2,400 yards that season in 15 games. He really, really sucked. And I don't think sucking is the best way to say it about it. We're talking about somebody who actually just had his highest completion percentage last year, throwing for the Steelers at like 65 or 66%. He's a fine passer. He had DJ Moore put up a top 15 season with throwing to him with the Bears. He doesn't completely suck. He's not, at this point, Jalen Milroe. He's not he's not Anthony Richardson. He's better than them.
Processing speed is slow. I wish Justin Fields could play on like 2 times like podcast speed,
Yes. I will give you that.
You also have to remember he plays for the Jets. That rarely works out well for anyone.
Yeah,
Their O-line's actually good now. Maybe.
Oh, yeah,
That's
they're
the thing.
great. Yeah, the Jets are going to be awesome now.
No, so he has time, and if you're going to be using Garrett Wilson, which we talked about in that show as being a fan of, and all the volume of targets, a lot of those are going to come quicker. This isn't him with DK Metcalf, who's now on the Steelers, or him with even George Pickens, who are very similar wide receivers. It's not an offense where you're asking Fields to sit there and process and be a slow processor. You want the ball out quick for Garrett Wilson, or out to Breece Hall, or out to the backfield, or, there's a lot of options in this team where it's just get the ball out. We're not looking for 25-yard plays.
So both of you have Fields ahead of Bo Nix, or Ian, do you have Nix ahead of Justin Fields?
I have them in the same tier. I have Nix QB7, Kyler QB8, Fields QB9. Dual threat ballers is the kind of shitty workshop name I'm working with there.
I would much prefer Nix in this situation.
Nix just had the 5th best rookie season ever in terms of fantasy points per game. We just don't talk about it because Jaden Daniels was a little bit better. So, and that was year 1. And look at those weapons there. We got Sean Payton there. We got the reigning 2nd-ranked offensive line in PFF's, just end of season rankings. I believe they brought back all 5 starters. We got some improvements. Evan Ingram, Pat Bryant, RJ Harvey, maybe not the biggest names in the world. But again, we were able to get that done last year, even without anyone's idea of this great supporting cast. So, Bo Nix, someone QB7. And honestly, I'll give Jake a little credit for ranking, Mahomes at QB9. It's one of these situations where I almost want to, because that's what we've seen these last 2 years, but just something about that 2018 and 2022 seasons keeps me coming back. Even with Mahomes being a shell of his former self in fantasy these last 2 years, only Josh Allen has averaged more career fantasy points per game. So giving Mahomes one last chance, just like Chet Stedman back in the day.
Well, let's talk about the guys that you should be drafting if you're waiting down the list. We've already hit on Anthony Richardson as a last round pick. And What are we saying his ability to be starter is right now? Is it like 60-40 versus Daniel Jones, or do you think that they're just saying all this and he's going to end up being the starter?
I say 90-10.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'd be fine.
Problem, both guys are going to start, I think, multiple games.
I don't.
More so.
That's where I will go down with this ship. I think the fact that we've already seen beat writers saying, oh, by the way, we just saw what the Giants learned from Daniel Jones, as in 7-on-7, Alec Pierce bust open free, and by the way, Daniel Jones still can't hit him on a wide open downfield pass. They know what Daniel Jones is. If Anthony Richardson gets hurt, absolutely. If Anthony Richardson 5 straight games can't throw a touchdown or over 50%, maybe we see him out there. And that's where it is like, I don't think the Colts are going to say, oh, by the way, we screwed up this pick so bad, we have to turn to Daniel freaking Jones. I think you're going to get every opportunity, just like Justin Fields, you're going to get every opportunity for Anthony Richardson to make the last chance that he could be an NFL quarterback out there, the starter, the player that they drafted and hoped he could be. Because if you turn to Daniel Jones, you are saying Anthony Richardson is done. You're saying you blew that pick. He's a bust in the NFL and you're moving on. And I see no reason as an NFL organization to make that move.
So for me, going down, J.J. McCarthy, who's going at, right around the 11th round right now. I like Geno Smith a little bit more, who's going in like the 16th round, which I think is just incredible. That if you want someone who has, I know that Jakey, you had mentioned like the Matthew Stafford type player. I actually think that Geno can be better than that based on the Raiders defense that they just going to be chucking the entire time. And we like all these weapons. Why not like Geno along the same way? Gets to play indoors. That's much more helpful than playing outdoors for him when you take a look at his splits. And then would you guys go Penix or Young? Bryce Young.
I would go Young and Penix, and I would actually take both before Geno. Here's why I'm neutral on Geno. It has nothing to do with the Jacoby Myers conversation, because admittedly, I moved up Jacoby Myers after we talked because I hit up Vic Taffert. I talked to Vic Taffert for The Athletic, and he's like, Trey Tucker actually doesn't look good so far. Jack Besh is behind. He's like, I would give a little bit more of the share to Myers. But the biggest thing is, I think this is a very balanced offense to where we don't need Geno Smith to throw for 40 to go back to the Sam Darnold. We don't need him to even be what Sam Darnold was last year, mostly because you bring it up, the defense, the balance with Genty out of the backfield. And then credit to Ryan Heath. He actually pulled this from, as bad as his quarterbacks were last year, they actually threw more catchable targets than Geno Smith did last year. It was miserable, and it was a volume situation. But the point in his tweet was being that, like, I don't necessarily see, I'm paraphrasing for him, that this is all of a sudden going to be 100 more catchable passes thrown from Geno Smith this year, and everybody's going to be lighting the world on fire. And I might be wrong, and this just might be a path that, I know I was saying that Ryan specifically was saying don't draft Geno. I'm just saying, like, this is one of those quarterbacks where, because of the lack of rushing, I'm just not going to go for it, where I could see Penix having similar passing numbers. And to Ian's point earlier, as much as I don't love the Falcons, that's a quarterback that I could see needs to throw for mid 4,000 and 30-plus touchdowns just to have this team be capable. But the biggest one is Bryce Young. And it's not even so much the passing, it's just what if the end of the year, similar to the Bo Nix argument, Bo Nix for a little stretch in the middle of the season last year, not only looked shaky, but wasn't running a lot. And we're banking a lot on, okay, that last third of the season looked really good. Admittedly, so I admit he looked really good. He's inside my top 10. But Bryce Young at the end, those final games where he was processing well, looked comfortable, he started to run, including the end zone runs, similar to calling his number and being like, you know what, this is mine, forget Chuba Hubbard. And if he even runs for 6 or 7 touchdowns over the course of the full season, which he had 6 towards the end of last year, or was it 5, that aspect of Bryce Young's game is just warranted enough that I think he should be in the conversation with J.J. McCarthy.
What is it that you like so much about McCarthy, Ian?
First of all, just on the Bryce Young thing, second most fantasy points from rushing behind only Josh Allen in weeks 13 through 18. Again, That's amazing. The 5 rushing touchdowns, big reason why it happened. So maybe we should be giving a little more credit to the potential of it happening again in 2025. Nice, or I should say at least interesting wide receiver room in Carolina at this point as well. With JJ McCarthy, I think the bet is just KOC keeping on. I mean, we saw Kirk Cousins put forward 2 of the more productive seasons of his career on a fantasy points per game basis in 2022, 2023. The Pastronaut not. Josh Dobbs was ripping off top 10 finishes. Nick Mullins had 3 top 15 finishes working with KOC, Justin Jefferson, and company down the stretch. And that's before even getting to Sam Darnold last year, which honestly probably could have just said that from the beginning. So with McCarthy, it's just one of these situations where if we had to say, like, what is the most ideal offensive environment when thinking about the skill position, when thinking about the offensive line, when thinking about the coaches, Minnesota's up there. And then with McCarthy's case, I mean, guys, like Dane Brugler, at the Athletic, Jake's coworker and everything, in my opinion, I know many others, like one of the sharpest, minds out there when it comes to evaluating players. When he says that J.J. McCarthy would have been the number 1 overall pick this year, I believe him. Wouldn't we be a heck of a lot more excited about J.J. McCarthy if he was just coming in as a number 1 overall guy? I feel like almost that really deep 2024 QB class is working against him. So I think J.J. McCarthy is arguably the late round target right now at cost.
I'm not completely inclined to disagree here, Jake.
On the J.J. McCarthy?
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with him. My issue with McCarthy is he going to be changed by Kevin O'Connell? And I know that the Michigan offense didn't ask him to do a lot, but you still saw somebody who, as a passing quarterback, I think had a lot of similarities to Taylor Heineke. And look, Taylor Heineke had some fantasy value and actually had some production for his wide receivers. And I'm saying that's how he felt coming out of college. That could be underselling him 100%. Obviously, Brugler saying he would have been the number 1 pick in this draft. Can debate that all day, whether it still would have been Cam Ward. But I wonder how much of that is just his overall ability and how much it is as a passer. And the only reason I bring up the passer thing is because if he is mediocre numbers, you threw up the numbers from 4 for 4. My projections aren't too far from that. And again, maybe I'm underselling what he can do in this offense with Kevin O'Connell. I have him a few less touchdowns. I think I'm around 26 versus what 4 for 4 has. But we're still talking about even 4 for 4, 4,028 touchdowns. That's still not even going to get you to QB1 unless he's also running on the ground. Or obviously you're going to run on the ground. Unless he's, chipping in, maybe even a Baker Mayfield type season, 300-400 yards, 4 or 5 touchdowns on the ground, and you can get there. It's just those passing numbers are not going to get you to even QB1 level, where Bryce Young, it just was top 5 down the stretch. And again, I'm not counting him to run that much and that many touchdowns over the course of the full season. I would never project that out for a full season. I just was bringing up the fact that they're in the same conversation for me. If you want to take McCarthy, cool. I would probably lean to him barely over Young, but I have him back to back.
I think I would be skipping most of these guys from 10 to 20, honestly. The Dak, Stafford.
That's the real answer.
What's that?
I said that's the real answer.
Yeah.
Like, Dak right now, depending on what site you're drafting on, is going late enough in like the 12th round where I could take Dak, especially with George Pickens as his number 2. He is somebody who's finished top 5, 90% passing, and in this offense and with the questions that they have. But I think the biggest answer, what you just said, is what everybody should be focused on, is going back to what I said first or last. I'm pretty much, if Justin Fields is on my team, it's because I took him in the 9th or 10th round. And if I don't get somebody like him or Caleb Williams in the 9th or 10th and they go earlier than that, then what you just said is I'm waiting till the 13th round, taking a McCarthy, taking a Young, taking a Jordan Love. He's going that late, as Ian said earlier, and I'll just double down on those guys.
Yeah, Ian,
that could be, just real quick, that could be kind of like a cheaper version of Burrow, though, I think, in the best case scenario. I named the Falcons as a potential NFC version of the Bengals. The Cowboys are there as well. Micah Parsons is going to keep that defense from, exactly being as bad as Cincinnati and everything. But remember, as much as the first 8 games of last season were not pretty for Dak, we're only 1 season removed from him legit playing at an MVP level. This dude has thrown 30-plus touchdowns. I believe in 3 straight seasons that he's been healthy enough to play 16 or more games. So, again, you look at this backfield, Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, Jaden Blue, we can't stop talking about it. That should just tell us that Dax would be able to throw the football really to his heart's desires. So I do believe this is his best 1-2 punch at wide receiver ever. Maybe we could talk about Amari Cooper with a young CeeDee Lamb, for a year in there. But, man, Brandon Cook's corpse was doing nothing for this offense over the past 2 years. And, again, I just think we're going to see the right sort of game environment to bring out maybe not that 2020 Cowboys team quite like that, because that defense was miserable in the pre-Parsons years and everything. But, again, we could see Dak throwing the ball 35, 40 times a game, and we have seen him, again, do that enough before to go ahead and give us some QB1 production.
I know that you had Kyler ranked pretty highly. There's no way I'd draft Kyler. He doesn't run enough near the goal line.
That's that thing. I mentioned the, rush attempts and stuff inside the not the rush attempts, the fantasy points inside the 5-yard line, which ends up being, just rushing touchdowns inside the 5-yard line. Jake Browning, backup Bengals quarterback Jake Browning has more fantasy points inside the 5-yard line than Kyler Murray over the past 2 seasons. So I will say Lamar Jackson, 0 carries inside the 5-yard line last season. So it's not like you necessarily need to get those to put up big time numbers, but certainly it doesn't help. So Kyler has talked about, being more open to running, but I don't know. We kind of hear that from guys during this time of the year. We did see it, and I believe it was 2020, that second season. He averaged north of 9 fantasy points per game from rushing, but he's never cleared 6 in any of his other years. So maybe, hey, what we say at the beginning of the show, Pat, extra year removed from the knee injury, maybe that brings it back out of Kyler. But again, I just think it's more so the archetype of it. Kyler is someone that I still do believe to be a good real-life quarterback. I don't blame you on not going out on a limb for the guy, but hey, he's a little bit cheaper than last year. I'm not going to be at 0% with him this year.
Well, and that's where he was last year real quick. He was QB 12 in fantasy points per game, only throwing 21 touchdowns. Like, I don't really need Kyler. I get what you're saying, Pat, but that's why I have him at 11. It's just like cool if he's there. If not, I'm probably to go what I was saying earlier. I would need him to be in basically the same spot as Fields and Caleb Williams. Is like around 9 or 10, he's there. Yeah, cool, because he was just QB 12 on a pretty terrible season overall. But I think that he is who he is at this point.
I think I would just, even if he was there in that round, I'd be like, you know what, just like 1v1, just give me Drake May instead, and hopefully he runs as much as he did last year.
Well, be careful. Before too long, I wouldn't be surprised if Drake May is going in front of him. Holy crap, the steam that this guy's getting.
It makes sense. Like everything that you said about Justin Fields, if May can keep up what he did last year, he doesn't need to be as prolific on the ground as Fields is, but just hopefully he can throw too, unlike Justin Fields, and then all of a sudden he's better.
Yeah, that's the thing. He was running a lot last year, and that carries over to this season. There's a lot of pushback. There's a lot of speculation overall. It's like, is Vrabel going to pull things back? Is Josh McDaniels going to be back to Josh McDaniels? Which I think that's the issue here is why I like TreVeyon Henderson, is that you get that kind of James White role out of Henderson where he doesn't need 250 touches. Is Kyle Williams going to be the answer? Is Stephon Diggs healthy? A lot of questions. But the biggest one that you just said is if he's running anything like he was last year, to go back to the Daniel Jones thing, if he's running and he gets 707 on the ground, mediocre passer. Like all those questions don't need to be answered. So I'm okay with that. It's just that a lot of people are saying these same things, and you're just Drake May by the week is creeping up the draft boards.
One name that we haven't mentioned, Ian, who has been a very good fantasy option, not an elite fantasy option, just very good every single week. Sort of the best version of the type of player that Jake didn't want, the Staffords of the world, because this guy does run a little bit. What about, I was going to say Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, he can scoot out there. We see that. And that's why I've always just kind of scoffed at the Jimmy G comparisons. The only thing that's similar is their yards per attempt efficiency. But don't look now. Jimmy G was one of the most efficient passers in the league during his time. And feel free to give all that credit to Shanahan and those playmakers and stuff. That's fine. We don't get extra fantasy points for style points anyway. So at the end of the day, all the yards are created equal. And with Brock Purdy, I mean, I remember the conversations last offseason where we were focusing on a 3-game sample size without Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams when this offense didn't score more than 17 points. And then for Purdy to go into last year, he only had Ayuk for 7 games, CMC for basically 3 games. Deebo Samuel was washed, as I'm being told. Ricky Bullets was out there for barely half the season. Trent Williams was out there for not even out there, I should say, for the back half of the season. And Purdy still finished QB 10 in fantasy points per game. So the fact that I haven't ranked QB 11, I've had to even check myself and be like, well, how is this year going to be even worse? I do think the answer to that is, well, we also have a ton of injuries happening right now already with Juwan Jennings' calf. Parasol just got back from the pup and all that stuff going on as well. So again, it's not perfect, but I think Purdy, honestly, like, is a situation where I've been in some of these, redraft mock drafts, Fantasy Life, we like to publish some. And I've seen Brock Purdy just really slip. People kind of ignore him. And again, that's a situation where as much as we look at these rankings and like we almost expect to be having to pick from the Geno Smiths, the Tua Tagovailoas of the world, you're going to be in some 10 or 12 team leagues where there is going to be a Brock Purdy or a Dak Prescott available in round 14 or 15. And whoever gets them, man, I think is going to be sitting pretty happy.
Mayo experience. Experience.